Hello and welcome to the first tutorial video for the Medeek wall plugin. The plugin was released on May 25th and it has now been approximately 1 month since its release date, and we've been beta testing it and trying to fix all the bugs and add new features as time has gone on here. So I thought it would be good to now start putting together some tutorial videos trying to explain some of the features of the plugin and some of the basic parameters and how to manipulate walls and doors and windows and that sort of thing. So be aware that the plugin, of course, is in full development right now and will continue to be in development probably for the next few months. So some of these features that I describe in this video will probably change in the near future or be updated in some fashion. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, first of all, I just wanted to show you guys, just today we're going to start with just some real basic stuff, go over some of the global settings and that sort of thing, and not really dive into a lot of details with each of the features, but just kind of give you an overview of the plugin. So the plugin to begin with has 4 toolbars currently. This is the primary toolbar right here, which allows you to create your walls. Right now the gable wall tool is not currently available and is still under development, but the door and window tool icons, those will create doors and windows in your walls. But let's start first with the global settings, and go ahead and click on that and you will see an HTML window pop up, and you can see there's quite a few tabs in this global settings, unlike the other 2 plugins which have maybe 6 tabs at the most. So this plugin is quite a bit more involved. There's a lot more parameters, and because it is so complicated, that's kind of why I think we need to have a bunch more videos to explain how to use it. So so bear with me. I'm going to try to explain some of these features here. Well, to begin with, you have the general tab. So in the general tab, yes, we do have English right now, and currently the language or translation feature, we haven't even got that far. So, but currently English is the only language available. The graphical UI, that's going to allow you to toggle between HTML menus and your standard SketchUp type menus, which aren't quite as elaborate. Currently I don't know that that does a whole lot, but in the future it will do more. I'm not going to go into every one of these items. I'm slowly but surely adding little prompts next to these items so that you have an understanding of what exactly they do. For instance, this 2D outlines is a recent addition. You can see that you can select construction line here or solid line, or just turn it off. And what that does essentially is when you're in 2D mode, and we're going to go ahead and click this over to 2D. Let's go ahead and close this out first. Hold on. Let's close this out. So first things first, with any wall panel that you create, if you right click on that wall panel, you can switch between different framing modes here. And so let's go ahead and drop it down to the 2D mode. And by the way, you can select more than one panel selection at once and do that. So you can drop everything down to 2D mode. Now the first thing you're going to notice here is that we've got some dashed lines showing up. And you might ask, well, what are those dashed lines? Well, those are the construction lines that are shown in the global settings in the 2D mode. So basically, if we turned all these off or turn them to solid lines, you're going to see that reflected here the next time you update this. So let's go ahead and save settings, close that out. Let's bring this back up to 3D mode, and let's bring it back down to 2D, and let's see what happens. Okay, so now you can see that all of those construction lines are turned off, and those essentially just showing you kind of the outline of where the sheathing and cladding and wainscoting is going to end up. So just kind of gives you a visual clue, and also you can reference right directly from those lines. So anyways, let's go back into the global settings. So callouts, and you're going to see annotations here. We've started adding callouts. You have callouts in 2D mode, you can turn on and off. You have callouts in 3D mode, you can turn on and off. Basically, I'm going to close this back out again. If we go back up into 3D mode here, and you can see you've got the size of the window and the callout for that. Um, and by the way, that is dropped onto the wall dimension layer, and you can set these layers and names accordingly within the global settings as well. So you can also see that when you're let's see from this side, we'll see that door. So yeah, there's just a lot of material here to cover, and I'm going to try to hit everything I can. But basically, if you're doing a top-down view, this is these little 2D drawings that are dropped on top of the 3D model are just kind of giving you a reference of what's there, as well as giving you the annotations. So you can always toggle those on and off by turn the layer off, or you can turn them off permanently by changing these options here to no. And of course now you can also set independently the callouts for columns as well as shear walls, and so that's kind of a nice feature as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up into 3D, and I'm going to drop just a shear panel there real quick, and I'm going to also drop in a wall column. Let me just move this over. Okay, so and let's go ahead and let's turn off the gypsum, and might as well turn off the insulation as well. Okay, so you can see we've got a couple interesting features going on in this wall, and you can also see that the annotations are shown for those features. And again, those annotations are dropped onto the wall dimension layer, so you can turn all that off if you like, or again, you can do that here within the general tab of the global settings. Okay, layers. So layers are something that you can turn on and off. Initially, you can turn them all off and have everything just land on the layer 0, or you can specify here, and you can actually call out the layer names, and you can drop different, framing, casing, gypsum, hardware, etc. dimension layer. And notice here we have the dimension layer where we're dropping all of those annotations on top on them. So you have that option to do that. And then here we're getting a little more granular if you like. I don't know how useful again this feature will be, but some people might want to drop their headers on a specific layer. If you don't turn this on, all of these layers or items that would be dropped on these special layers are just dropped on the wall framing layer. So that's something to know. Okay, the materials tab, not a lot here yet, other than the very important thing to know is that auto assigned materials must be turned on. Otherwise, all of these materials that you're seeing will not be assigned. So, and by default, the plugin, when you first install it, this option will be turned off. And so I've had a lot of people that have commented and said, hey, I can't get any of the materials to turn on. My insulation is white, everything's white. Well, you need to turn on this option, that's all. And at some point I probably turn that default on. I think that might be the better thing, but anyways, for now it's auto turned off, and you can turn it on. And then of course here you can set your lumber color and your pressure treated lumber color. I'm still trying to decide whether I'm going to set these to be some sort of SKM file or some other method, but for now we're just assigning with a color. And if you click on this, you can actually change the color, and if you want to go back to your defaults, right here you have the default lumber color right there. So you can set it to whatever you like. Anyways, I'm not going to save that. That's interesting. I wonder why that's not clicking there. Okay, anyways. Sheathing and cladding is in this tab under sheathing. Again, you can set your gypsum sheathing color. You can set a bunch of defaults for what you want to do with your cladding. In this tab, I will need to add in the wainscot, exterior wainscot information defaults. I haven't done that yet, but that will probably appear in this tab as well. So you can set up things like, your thickness of your sheathing, and whether you want to miter the corners or have them flush. And again, I'm still adding in these little little tooltips, I call them. So for instance, if you choose flush, that's what's going to happen on your corners. If you choose lap on your sheathing, that's what's going to happen. And then on the cladding, you also have the miter option as well. So, you know, there's just a lot of parameters here that need to be set. And granted, most of them are already default set to fairly standard values, but you may want to come in here and adjust those some. So this is the sheathing tab. Let's go ahead and jump to the wall tab. Okay, the wall tab is pretty well. It needs a lot more information and parameters added as well, in my opinion. It's pretty sparse at the moment, to be honest. So first of all, the first tab you're going to notice is this wall framing option here, and basically this will default you to full framing or no framing or the 2D mode. So that's one you're going to want to adjust right off the bat. Advanced wall options, this will make it so that when you click on the draw wall tool here, it will automatically have the advanced wall options flagged to yes, and that will take you to the next menu window. Or you can set it to no here, and then of course it won't automatically go to no. So these are default settings that will affect the default behavior of the plugin. Auto corner configuration, this one will basically adjust your corners so that as you're creating walls with the Polyline tool, it will automatically make sure that these walls are terminating the right way. And so I think you really want to have this one turned on. I'm not sure why you would want to turn it off, but there may be some situation where you don't want it to adjust those wall corners for you. Again, this one's kind of fairly self-explanatory. You've got line and polyline. So when you go ahead and create walls, you can either start clicking points, segments, and it just keeps creating walls, or you can just create wall panels separately by clicking 2 points with a start and an end. Standard stud sizes. This is allows you to enter in 2x4, 2x6, 2x8. If you turn this to no, then it will prompt you for a width and a depth for that stud size. Okay, Z height. This option is kind of interesting. So basically what happens is when you're creating walls, you will typically want to create these walls. Here, let's go ahead and close this out. You want to, generally you want to create those walls wherever you want to start your walls at on whatever Z height you want to be at. Like I've just created on the 0, 0 plane here, but you may want it to be 2 feet up, or 3 feet up, or wherever. So what's happening with that Z height is if you set that value to some absolute value and turn that option on, then it will basically create that wall at that height, at that Z height, no matter where you click in the in reference to the Z. So it just kind of hard codes that in. This is just the wall blocking. You can set up staggered blocking. You can have it, if you want it to be centered on the wall, you just put in center, or you can put in an actual hard coded amount, whether that's 48 inches or some value. Okay, so there's a lot of options in these doors and windows, and I'm going to probably have to dive into those later on a much more special video just for doors and just for windows, because there's so much information regarding this. But basically, these parameters all set the defaults for the regular doors and windows, and all of these parameters you'll typically see when you go ahead and edit. Let's go ahead and click the edit opening tool here, and you can see you've got a lot of parameters, and all these parameters that you're seeing there are those default parameters that show up within the global settings. Now let's jump back in there. This tab has to do with the wall corners. I don't think you'll typically need to do much here. I would just tend to leave this kind of as default. The only thing maybe you might want to change up is the corner treatment. Currently there's California corners or no California corners, so that's probably the only thing that you might want to adjust. Everything else is either if the auto corner configuration is turned on, some of these items I guess don't really matter anyways because the plugin is automatically calculating them, but I would probably just tend to leave these kind of default. This is having to do with the trim of the wall, both the exterior and the interior trim, and obviously the interior trim has not yet been fleshed out very much, so that feature is still in development. But the exterior trim, we basically have a bunch of settings here where you can set the corner trim and set dimensions and whether or not you want to have the trim located on the sheathing or on the framing or the cladding. I think in this case it's sheathing and cladding. Okay. Insulation, not much going on here, just gives the option to set some basic parameters like the type of insulation you want and whether you want to turn that option on automatically or not. Hold downs, this particular tab, this all works, this is all functional. It gets fairly complex. I'll probably have to do a whole nother video for engineering on this one, and also I am going to be changing this up slightly, and we will be setting up a global, not global, but a specific feature for adding in shear walls, because right now this is kind of incomplete in the fact that it allows you to set up a wall panel as a shear panel, but there's possibilities that you might have shear panels, more than one shear panel on a single given wall panel. So yeah, we're gonna kind of change things up a little bit on the way we're handling the hold downs and shear walls. So this one is, like I said, it's functional, but it's going to be developed a little bit further and it's going to get changed up. And of course, last but not least, we've got the license, and this is where you go ahead and enter in your plugin serial number. Please, all caps, don't put any white spaces in, and then hit save settings, and then it should register your software. One thing is once you have registered it, hit save settings, and then go ahead and close out the the SketchUp, and then restart SketchUp. You basically need to do that so that it completely installs and fully registers the plugin. So I probably need to add that to the instructions somewhere, but basically restart SketchUp after entering in your plugin serial number. Okay, so that's just a quick brief overview of kind of the global settings. There is a lot of information here, a lot of parameters. Basically you just kind of got to get in here and play around with it. I will be adding in more of these little text boxes and prompts, and I think these are very helpful in explaining, in a nutshell, kind of what's happening with that parameter. So you should be on the lookout for those. Okay, so recently I've added in the wainscot, the exterior wainscoting, as I call it, or ability to do dual cladding systems. And you can see on this wall we've got a dual cladding system. We've got some shingles or whatever you want to have up here, and then down below we have I don't know, I guess stucco. I don't know what it particularly is, but that's just an option I've chosen. So oh, the one thing I did want to demonstrate real quick is, let's go ahead and also show you the ability to use presets. So what I've done is, let's go ahead and open up, edit this wall. Easiest thing to edit a wall assembly is just right click on it. You'll notice recently that this wall presets feature has been added, and basically once you have a wall open like this, you can save, you can basically save this current configuration as a preset. So I'm going to save this one as test 2. You can name it whatever you like. Okay, so now you see that we've got 2 different presets. Now previously I've gone ahead and named this particular configuration as test 1. So when I've got this wall panel open, well, I'm going to show you again. Let's start this over here. I'm going to also jump this up 3D full framing. Okay, so I'm going to take this wall panel, I'm going to edit it. Now let's say I want this wall panel to look like that wall panel, the same features. So now I've got this wall panel to open up. I'm going to take test 1 and I'm going to load it up. Now watch what happens. Notice this moved a little bit, and the reason is because all of a sudden the exterior wainscot options were enabled, because that's what's enabled here in this particular wall preset. Okay, so I've loaded up the preset. Now if I hit update, this wall panel is going to basically look like this wall panel. So let's go ahead and hit that, and you can see it does. So basically you can see that you can change, you can save a particular preset and then apply that preset to any given wall panel. So let's go ahead and let's apply the same preset to this wall panel. So we're going to load up test 1, and then we'll hit update. And again, you know, you have all other features here. Let's say we have test 2 and we want to delete test 2. Hit delete. It's going to prompt you, do you really want to delete this? Yes. Okay, and yeah, you can see test 2 is gone. So we've gotten rid of that preset if we don't like it. Alright, so that's kind of a nutshell, I guess, of what you can do with this wall plugin. It has a lot of features, and I keep adding more, and I'm always open to suggestions. So please keep sending those in. There always are a few more bugs that keep popping up. You know, this is a new piece of software, so I am trying to address those as quickly as they come in. Right now, I think the big push right for me is the garage walls, or garage doors, sorry. So that will be the next development that happens here shortly. And also I want to finish out this beam, column and beam toolbar, and get these two wrapped up. Alright, next time we will dive more into some of the details of windows and doors, and also into the details of actual wall creation. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your support. Thanks.